Welcome back to my channel. This is the HowToKDJ podcast. In case you're lost and looking for better things to view on YouTube or Spotify, this is probably the right place to be. If you want to ponder with me, I'm working on a new intro. I don't know if that really worked. I might cut this out. I'm probably not going to now that I've said that because I don't know, moral quandaries and whatever. Okay, so today I have this specific thing I kind of kept thinking about for a while on my own because I'm that jobless. Help me. But this is the thing. So, society, right? Society. There's no way to make a topic like this sound interesting, first of all. That's the thing. That's the problem with a lot of topics that I come up with. I'm like, even if I have to talk about this, how do I make it entertaining? How do I make it not sound like a lecture? And to be fair, there are people who tune into podcasts for that value of lecturable, knowledge, because they're passing knowledge, they're teaching someone something, and it's fun to learn things and stuff. But at the same time, I don't really want my podcast to be too heavily dependent on people trying to learn stuff. So I don't know exactly where I'm going with this, but I don't know. This is just a thing about me. But in general, right, I want to get to a point where I can make any topic sound as appealing as possible. But aside all that, existentialism, let's discuss something. Societies are kind of driven by a purpose, by a goal. In general, and any society is driven by a goal, and usually it's to sustain it. It's all about sustainability. All of life is about sustainability at the end of the day. It's kind of the purpose of anything organic. It's just meant to thrive. It's sort of supposed to take over wherever it is. So like this got me thinking, because I was like, if we are meant to technically just take over everything, and that's kind of our goal, that's the whole reason we give birth, is the whole reason we feed ourselves, is the only reason we do anything, is because we want to sustain our lives and we want to have fun while doing it, But my main quandary about this is, how exactly do we justify how do we justify what we're doing as right or wrong? Because think about it like this, right? So a society is based on trying to be as profitable or as sustainable and as equitable as possible. By equitable, I don't know if that's a real word, but I just mixed equity and able. I don't know if that's a thing. It probably isn't. Don't listen to me. I'm saying pure jargon right now. But this is the thing. If society is kind of supposed to leer towards equity, which to explain myself, equity is basically a state of any form of society where everyone has how do I put this? Everyone is perfectly equal to their means, right? Because I don't know if that's the easiest way to explain it. You can probably just look up the dictionary meaning, and that'll probably break down what I'm trying to say. But it means the rich people give to the poor so that everyone is balanced. That's basically equity. And this has always got me thinking, if there was equity in a society, how would it function though? Because if there was equity, that kind of just means everyone has equal chance of doing anything they want to do. And if everyone has equal chance, then who does the dirty work? Because think about it. Who would do the dirty work? Who would be in charge of, I don't know, fast food? Who would be in charge of doing manual labor? Who would be in charge of anything? And that's kind of the thing that got me into this conversation, in my mind, with myself, because that's who I am. I didn't know how exactly a society would survive that way. I feel like chaos is kind of the balance of life. The only reason there is life is because of chaos. And if we have to balance things out, then that wouldn't exactly be life anymore, would it? I don't know where I'm going with this, but I always never know where I'm going with anything. I just kind of spit things into the air and hope things stick. But this is the thing. If you have a society, right, and everyone is developing themselves and giving to everyone else, first of all, some people would start expecting things to be given to them. And I'm going to break down all these ideas I have right now, all these thoughts, concepts I have, little by little. First act I'll go into is, because I don't know, I feel like I should add a little bit of arrangements to what I'm discussing, because otherwise it just sounds like pure mumbo jumbo. But like, let's imagine it like this: Bill Gates, for example, freaking rich, multi-billionaire, one of the richest men alive. Elon Musk, same thing, one of the richest men alive, probably the richest man alive right now. Everyone always goes into, like, even I do this. We always go into this mentality where we're like, well, you have all this money. Why don't you give to the poor? Why don't you like help starving children in Africa? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? But then I also like a part of me. This is like aside from the whole humanity of the aspect, because humanity is just a weird thing that we coined up because of how it makes us feel, whatever. Besides that, how do you justify the end result? Because the end of the whole line is he gives money to the poor, right? The poor people get enough to survive and build their societies and get rich as well. But off of who? Like, do you understand what I'm saying? Because you think about it like this. In order to make money, this is something I've always kind of known deep in my mind that I've always tried to talk to people about. In order to make money, you have to take that money from someone else. That's how it works. That's the thing. You have to. There is no way around that. You can't make money without someone else losing money. And a lot of the time, it's not just losing money, it's losing a life. A lot of the time. Like, that's one of the reasons a lot of people go as far as to judge people like Bill Gates and the rest and be like, hey, so he has basically caused a lot of people to die, a lot of retirements, a lot of different bad things that have happened to other people's lives because he had to reach his goal of becoming the most successful computer or whatever. Like, yes, but also that's exactly what everyone else is doing in some sort of indirect way. You can't get money without reducing someone else's life or someone else's account. I don't know how to put this in a more retrospective way, but think about it like this. If you had to make money as a fast food worker, right? You wanted to work, you wanted to make money, okay, fine. What exactly do you think you do? Okay, cool. You work, you earn a living by doing handiwork, by moving around, by serving people. Cool. So you serve people food, and because the food is valuable enough and people actually want to eat that food, and because you're doing a decent enough job with the task you're handed, they pay you, right? Where is that money coming from? Step one. Okay, so the money is coming probably from the profits that they make from selling the food and stuff. Cool. Where is that food coming from? The food is most likely coming from like whoever produced it, maybe a farm, maybe a bunch of different farmers, maybe a bunch of different people that had to make this. Cool. But also, if you're making profits, what does that mean? That means they are not getting paid the exact amount their food is valuable. Do you get what I mean? If a farmer farms, gets chicken and all this stuff, and another person takes that chicken and uses it to make a burger, a sandwich, and everyone likes it because he added some extra spices and extra this and that, which some other people had to farm as well, and did all that, combined it, and everyone paid him 3 times the amount they would have paid for each individual thing. And this is including everything, including like the heating, including the cooker, the thing he's using to cook. This is including the person's handiwork, everything. You had to pay for everything, right? And the person makes value out of it from the fact that he buys everything all together in as much bulk as possible. He has to take from someone else's hard work, for him to make as much money as he makes. You know what I mean? Like, are you understanding what I mean? I don't know if I'm getting to someone here, because it's very difficult to explain this, but he literally has to take money from other people. He has to indirectly reduce the earnings of other people so he can make profits, because money is not infinite. It's all based on resources. It's on resource management. I've talked about this in the last episode I made. You should probably check it out. Money is literally just resources or efforts that people quantify. That's it. It's just quantifiable efforts. So like, someone puts in this amount of efforts, they feel like they need to be paid back this amount for that effort they put in. And that's it. That's how money works. And because of that whole financial system, because of that's how money works. If you put in effort and someone has to give you equal amount for the effort you put in, for the value of the effort, then no one would make profit. That's a perfectly equitable, like I said, the weird word I probably made up. That's an equitable society. It's a society where everyone earns for the amount of value they put in. But do you see how that doesn't make sense, right? Because if everyone did that, then there will be no profits. Then it would be a net zero. Then profit wouldn't exist. The only way profit exists is because you're taking money from someone else. It's because you're limiting someone else's value by taking money from them. And a lot of the time that's based on ignorance. It's based on the fact that the person who you're taking from doesn't know enough to know how valuable what they have is. And that's just 100% true. That's the reason a lot of people, like a lot of businesses, cost so much for little bit of work, because they feel like this is so valuable that the long-term effect does qualify for how much it costs, which makes sense, except for the fact that if that's true, then that also applies to everything. That applies to farmers, that applies to educators, teachers. Think about it. A teacher molds the future society. Whoever was the first great teacher of Elon Musk technically is as valuable as Elon Musk in some way, to an extent, obviously. Not like that person like created him or anything. But that person was one of the reasons he is where he is. If you get what I'm saying. So like, imagine if that guy was being paid because he was going to raise an Elon Musk. Right? Like, just, I don't know how to explain this, because this is all just about, this is a weird way of reasoning. It's just a thing I like to do once in a while, because it's nice to refresh your brain and realize that there are a lot of things, a lot of probably loopholes in society. And also the whole end goal of this whole thing and this whole discussion as well is we feel we need to give everyone basically a fighting chance. Everyone should be sustainable enough to themselves. Like, everyone should be able to do enough to sustain their lives, to profit and to do this. But how do we do that? Because that's straight up impossible. You can't have a society where everyone makes enough to survive. Just that's simple. There's nothing else to that sentence. You can't make a society like that. That's impossible. Because there's no fundamental way of living where everyone can survive equally and be financially successful equally. It's not possible, because someone has to make profit off of someone else. And if someone else is losing, then that ends up making that other person not as profitable as the first person, or as you, as the first person, the person who wants to get profits. If you need profit, someone else has to make loss. That's how it works. That's the balance of the universe. It's part of Newton's law. It's literally action and reaction are equal and opposite. You act by trying to gain profit. Someone else reacts by losing. That's literally every business. And this is me breaking things to fundamentals. It's even in a much larger scale for like businesses, for huge businesses, for financial empires. It's like they need certain amounts of money to do certain things. And the only way to make that much money is to take it from others. That's the thing. You can't imagine a company like Apple, for example, making this much profit off of everything without basically taking money off of other people for barely anything. Think about it. What a phone does, what the Apple phone does, people have done this whole quantifying thing on YouTube. You can probably find a video on it. People have tried to quantify exactly how much value an iPhone does for you, an iPhone brings you. And sometimes people may argue as well that, hey, yeah, but technically it is doing you basically a lifetime of value. Your life would be completely different without that thing, without that gadget. Yes, but also no. Why no? Because if that gadget could be cheaper, then it is possible to make it cheaper. It's just that if you made it cheaper, you would have less profits. And with less profits, you're less rich, which means you're less valuable. And when you're less valuable, your company tanks, meaning your entire empire is based on the fact that you need people to feel, basically ignorance, that that device you're selling to them, the Apple, like for the iPhone, for example, is more valuable than it actually is. Because that's the thing. We have reached a point in financial understanding that it is very, very, very easy to get to that level of finances without spending that much. And actually, technically, I mean, to that level of technology, not finances, to that level of technology without spending that much. It is possible. Like, we know it's possible because we know how to make all these things, and all these things are documented. The pioneers who actually created these things have long gone left the world. Like, they don't exist. A lot of these people are dead. We are just kind of building up on those things that they did, and that's it. Like, you can't say, oh, because we have electricity in our houses, then technically the value of electricity, of not having electricity in the first place, should also directly connotate the value of how much you have to pay for electricity. No, you can't really do that. Why? Because you are not the fundamental creator of it. The fundamental creator, long time ago, the person who discovered this whole thing, is long gone. He's gone. He's straight up just gone. If the world could actually see how much he would affect the future, then his value would be way higher. But at the same time, you can't quantify things that are outside people's lifetimes, because then who are you quantifying it to? This is a very long-winded way of me saying, look, in any society, you want to put value on a thing or on a business or anything. You need people to feel like they're spending more than they are. You need people to not just spending more than they are. You need people to feel like they are spending more than they need to be spending. That's the thing. Or actually, technically, I mean the opposite. Yeah, I think I'll rephrase that. You need people to feel like they're spending less than they need to be spending, or that they're spending exactly how much they need to be spending. It can never be more, because if it's more, then people would want to spend less. That's pretty much why I said I need to correct myself. So pardon me. Basically, you need a society where people have enough ignorance to understand or to not understand how much they are spending, and how valuable that thing they're spending on is. That's the thing. That's the only way a society can be successful. Because otherwise, there is no profit. Otherwise, you farm and you get exactly how much you're worth for what you did, and everyone else gets how much they're worth for what they did. And there is no cycle there. Do you see what I mean? In any society, for there to be growth, for there to be any form of movement, there has to be some kind of cycle. Even in any form of society, in any form of think about biology, for example. We have a nitrogen cycle. Why is there a nitrogen cycle? Why is there not just nitrogen in the air and in some plants? No, it moves, because that's the only way life can be sustainable. If everything becomes stagnant, what happens? It dies. It festers. Literally, think about it like stagnant water. And technically, from the wake of stagnant water, there is something that's being produced. Because stagnant water, in case you didn't understand my reference right there, maggots, flies, they lay eggs in stagnant water because it's less bothersome, because the eggs won't move around too much and like break or anything. So they lay eggs in stagnant water, maggots form in stagnant water, a lot of bugs get there, because it's stagnant, because there's nothing moving. So the water itself loses, the water dies, the water becomes hideous, becomes gross. Why? Because of stagnation. That's literally it. And because of this whole understanding, because of this whole, philosophy, you need to understand that people have to lose for some people to gain. And not just people have to, I'm not just talking specifically about the richest people in the world. I'm saying in every form of society, to have actual growth, you need people to lose. And not just lose, you need people to lose hard. Because imagine if every society just had everyone perfectly balanced, perfectly equal. Who's doing what? That's the thing. Like, imagine it right now. Just put it in your mind, okay, now immediately, like, this is probably going to be very complicated to even think about. And like I said from the beginning, I don't know how to make this interesting or fun. This is kind of one of those things where I kind of put people on the spot for some reason, but this is what I enjoy doing. I do it to my friends all the time, and they obviously hate me for it. But like, put yourself in the spot, like right now. Like, okay, everyone in the world right now has equal money, equal monetary value, equal understanding as well, because you can't have equal monetary value without equal understanding, because people will just immediately topple over. People will just lose their money, and other people will gain the money from those people who lost the money, and it goes back into the people who are bigger than other people. So everyone has to have perfectly equal understanding, perfectly equal amounts of money, perfectly equal everything. What happens? Now think about it. Like, that's one of those things that you have, like, it's crazy. It's like imagining a whole superhero franchise. Imagine if someone had this and everybody had this, what would happen? Or like a sci-fi franchise. How do you depict anything? How do you predict what would happen? Think about it from each perspective. Okay, so from the perspective of an average dude like myself, everyone has equal money, right? That could mean one of two things. That could mean everyone has billions of dollars, or everyone has nothing. And if everyone has nothing and equal understanding from base level, how do you do anything? You kind of have to do things physically, right? Like, you would think, oh, okay, and then it would just be a society where we just kind of eat. We just kind of like take food and like we basically like go farm, we plant stuff, we eat. Okay, now think about it like this. Who owns what? Because that also affects things. Because if everyone was equal, people wouldn't have different houses. Think about that as well. People wouldn't have different societies. Countries wouldn't exist because nothing will be owned by anyone. Because if things were owned by other people, then that reduces the amount that other people own compared to them, which topples the whole thing over. And think about it like this. This is where society is supposed to be, in quotes, because for some people who are not hearing me or who are not watching the video, is, in quotes, supposed to be heading to. So it's like, this is where we are supposed to go, to a point where everyone is balanced, everyone has full bellies, and there are clear skies, and it's a paradise. But exactly what is going on? Because that cannot work. That literally cannot be sustainable. The only way you can have sustainability is to have some sort of loss from somewhere. Someone has to be losing something. That's the thing. So like, all those people who like question and talk about this whole thing where they're like, so this guy is busy traveling to space, whereas some other people are starving. Yeah, it would be cool to help those people who are starving, but how do you limit that? Because if you say, okay, I have $1 billion, so I don't think I need too much. I don't need $1 billion to survive. You know what I'll do? I'll spread that money to all these other people who are starving, and all these people who are doing this. Do you know how many millions of people there are around the world just starving? Like, just that simple. Not even about clothing, shelter, nothing. Just starving. They don't have the thing necessary to eat and to keep their lives going. Because that's, like I said in the beginning, that's the whole purpose of society. That's the whole purpose of biology, to sustain itself. So imagine all those people got food. Now everyone has the food. How long do you think that would last? Because he can't just provide money. Like, that $1 billion cannot just provide food for everyone just like that. Like, that literally wouldn't work. Because imagine if all those people, let's just use a simple analogy, 1 million people. So there are 1 million people, right? Cool. 1 million starving people. And one guy has $1 billion. Okay? Remember, he also has a life too. And he did work for that money. Cool. So you'll be like, okay, so he deserved a little bit of it. So let's give him, let's spread it extremely thin. Let's say the guy has $1,000 now. That's it. You're only giving $1,000. Make the rest somehow basically the same way you earned $1 billion. Not even thinking about it right now. Spread the rest of the money for 1 million people. And let's approximate. Let's approximate that he didn't even get that $1,000. What happens? He has $1,000 for every single person of that 1 million people. For every single one of those 1 million people, they get $1,000, because that's how math works. Because 1,000 times 1 million equals 1 billion. So imagine if every single one of those people had $1,000. Okay? Then you'll be like, okay, cool. Then I guess they can afford to feed themselves. Some of them can afford to travel. Some of them can afford to leave that place. Okay. What about him as well? What about that rich guy? What about Elon Musk, for example? Let's use him as the example. What about the people he has to pay? What about the people working for him? about so many things. How do you balance that? And some people may be like, okay, cool, yeah, so okay, what if he doesn't give all of it? But what's the end result though? Because even if he doesn't give all of it, then what happens? A lot of people would still be starving, and a lot of people will be hungry. And a lot of people think, if the richest people in the world gave just 1 billion from their wallets, every single person in the world, if everyone in the world was that balanced, then it's the same thing. Don't you get? If 2 people are the only ones who exist in the world, one person, both of them have $1,000, and they want to buy something from the other person, and they only have $1,000 to themselves. The entire world is empty. They just have $1,000 to themselves. Who's richer than who? Neither of them. And this is a situation where none of them is wiser than the other, so none of them can swindle the other person. Who's richer? No one's richer. They're just equal. They're just balanced. So there's no growth there. If this person needs food, he has to literally go out to the farm and plant, or like build crops and do everything manually by himself. And everything kind of layers towards that every time I think about it. This is like the only way you can get a society where everyone is perfectly balanced and perfectly equal is literally to live like animals. You literally have to just farm. That's it. You have to just sustain your life by farming, by literally just farming. That's the only way you can find food. There will be no clothing unless you forage for leaves and stuff and then wear leaves as clothes. You would have to literally do everything by hand for yourself. And that's it. You wouldn't be able to sustain yourself longer than that. And you might be like, yeah, but technically some people have survived on just farming and some people have survived just doing that alone. Yes, but how do you build a society that way? Because you can't do all that by yourself. You're limited. You're a human being. You're still limited by the fact that you are mortal. You're a mortal person. You can die at some point. And also, there is no growth for society. There is no growth in anything. Because the only way you can have growth is by using other people. I just said that in the beginning. This is a very long loop. It's a big, wide loop. And the reason that this is such a big loop is because it still links up to that fundamental basis that you have to take to get. You have to make profit by making other people lose, by taking money from others. That's the only way. Like, it's literally the only way. And yes, it would be nice if there was some kind of maximum cap in the universe, on Earth at least, for specifically, where it was like, if you made up to $1 billion, basically, if you were worth up to $1 billion, then that's like the maximum cap. Anything else from that would just directly pour to charity. But then also think about the long-term effect of that. Because it's like, if everyone had that mindset where if I made enough money, a lot of people just start enjoying themselves and a lot of people start surviving, what does that do for the long term of the universe? Because it's like, okay, that means everyone's just kind of going to aim to make other people enjoy themselves for free. That's it. And then what happens when there is no starving person left? When there is nobody who's poor, when there is nobody who needs any form of sustenance in any way, and everybody is just kind of decent and happy. What happens? Do you think it ends there? No, it doesn't. It doesn't end there. They're full, okay? They have full bellies. You fed all of them. And then what? This is kind of part of the whole teach a man to fish, give a man a fish, he'll be satisfied for a day. Teach a man to fish and he'll be satisfied for his whole life. It's that same reasoning, because if everyone could just do it, if everyone could just be sustainable and everyone just had that kind of balanced life, then no one would be, like, there'll be no growth, there'll be no sustenance, there'll be no anything. That's not stability, because people now think, oh, okay, then that's where we should go, we should get to a point where everyone is just kind of balanced that way. Well, really try to think about that, because would you really be happy with that? Is that exactly the kind of life you would want to live? Like a specific kind of life where you're just balanced, where everything is just like in a perfect state of stability, which I will get into in a second part now. That's not stability either. That's my next point. That's not stability, because you are still taking resources. Because people keep forgetting that one of the real reasons people like Elon Musk, people like, I don't know, other people, NASA for crying out loud, is doing space explorations and trying to find a way to habitate other planets, is because we have limited resources. Think about like the world, the entire Earth we live on is limited. Think about it in the, okay, I keep saying think about it. I won't try to find another way to say that, but think about it is the only way I can say it. Whatever. Imagine it this way. Cancer. That just sparked a lot of people's brains and they're like, where is he going with this? Stick with me. Cancer is deformed cells constantly replicating inside your body. That's exactly what cancer is. There's no need to break it more than that. I know there's more more biology to that. It's literally cells that were supposed to reproduce, because your body always produces cells all the time, and even freaking blood cells and stuff. It's cells that are being produced, but they mutated and they're so powerful that your antibodies could not kill them. And then they just kept growing. So why do we want to eliminate cancer? Because it kills the host. Think about it like that. The host is not an infinite resource. Even life in general, the only reason you die after a couple years, like your body gets to that point, is because you're not an unlimited resource. You have an expiry date, basically. Your body reaches a point where it expires. It can't do more than that. And that understanding, that fundamental understanding, is very important, because people think, okay, if everything is sustainable and we're just planting and everything's just going well, then we'll just live life like that. No. You would do that until the earth would be barren. Everything would just be dead. Every form of society would just be empty. And people would still die, because think about it. You still need heating. You need electricity. The only way to have electricity is to have businesses. The only way to have businesses is to make profit. The only way to make profit is to make other people lose. So everything business-wise cuts off. So there is just a state of life where there is nothing. We're basically like I said, like animals. We're like cows. And we're not even like cows. We're like smarter, because we have to produce the plants ourselves. We have to put in the work. And by putting in the work, you also degrade your own life, because you're putting in efforts. And by putting in efforts, what does that mean? That means you get no pay, you get nothing, you just kind of do it for survival. Cool. So everyone's now surviving. Then what? That's the thing. The planet itself, I said plants by accident, the planet itself reduces resources. It reduces raw materials. So after reducing resources, what happens? The planet dies. And if the planet we're living on dies, what happens to us? We also die. That's the thing. That's the fundamental truth about equity. About actual equity, which is what everyone strives for some reason. And not understanding the fact that you need to screw someone over or be screwed yourself in order to make a successful society. So is this just a long-winded way of saying, like, biology, like humanity in general, is just, it's just doomed? Yes it is. Oh my god, yes, that's the actual truth. I'm not kidding. That's the scary reality of it. That's the truth. Like, you can't get further, you can't get more existential than that. That's just the end of humanity. The end of every society is a point where everything is just perfectly sustainable, quote unquote, to the point where you can't do anything. You can't come from anywhere. You can't do, like, that's like where everyone's end goal wants to be. But the thing is, for those of us like I guess myself and people who are thinking about what I'm talking about right now, who understand this, fundamentally have this in the back of their minds, that you need profit to sustain a society. And if your goal is to keep your society sustained, you need to take from others. You need people to make losses so that you can make profits. That's the existential truth. That's exactly how it works. That's how every society works. You want to keep life going on, you need people to lose things. You need people to die. You need people to starve. You need that to happen, because if that doesn't happen, no one makes anything. Like, no one does anything. No one goes up. And if no one goes up, the planet dies and we all die together. That's the thing. We're all on basically just a ticking bomb. And that's what all of humanity is. It's a ticking bomb. It's a time bomb. It's like, it's until it reaches a point, that's the end. When it reaches that point, nothing else matters. That's just it. And because that's just it, you can't do anything about it. You can't say anything, you can't do anything. That's just the actual end. So like, that whole fundamental way of reasoning has just got me in like, I don't know. Personally, I've always had this thing where I don't know whether it's a nihilistic way of thinking, but like, I don't have that weird existential dread most people have, because I kind of feel like this is what humanity is. This is what we're bred for. This is part of our genetic code to basically sustain ourselves to a point where we take over everything. Like, we just kind of produce and reproduce. We are the cancer of the universe. I've always said this. Like, this is the truth. For people who are strong-minded and capable enough to hear this without like feeling bad because one person in their family has, look, I'm not talking about that. I'm not referring to anybody. I'm saying we are the cancer of the universe. We literally are, because that's our point. That's our purpose. That's the only reason we sustain ourselves, because we want to produce more of ourselves. And yeah, that was a notification. That's another notification. I should probably silence my laptop. But like, this is the thing. The only way we can keep society growing and fundamental life growing is by taking losses. Some kind of disbalance has to occur. And some may say as well, what's the end goal? Even if you are able to take over all of the universe, what happens? Well, we're still waiting to find out. We'll keep doing that. The universe is technically infinite, or theoretically infinite, I guess, because we don't really know. We can't see more than our observable universe. So even if we're able to take over everything, then what? And also, some may argue as well that that's kind of what AI is there to plan for us. Maybe humanity is just not meant to know. Maybe we just can't know enough of like our reasoning. We can't know. Maybe that's just part of it. You know, it could just be one of those things where this is just the fundamental goal. Fundamental goal of society is just to get to a point where we just kind of take over, and then AI just kind of continues for us, and then probably creates some other universe, and maybe that universe has its own humanity to AI again. Maybe it's just infinite. Maybe it's just parallel. Maybe it's just multiversal. Maybe it's just existential and crazy. But we're in for the ride, whether we like it or not. That's the thing. Live or die, you're still in for the ride. Because I've always told people, like, you think, oh, okay, now I'm feeling depressed, now I'm just gonna end it all. You're still in for the ride. You're just not conscious anymore. So like, I'd rather just enjoy it, you know, be conscious, enjoy what we're going through, enjoy the fact that this is just humanity. This is just what we live in. This is just what we're created for. It's basically a blessing and a curse for us. Just enjoy that. Because that's the best way to think. That's the best way to live. Just knowing that, look, you can do anything you want, but you still streamline yourself for the purpose of conquering, of taking over the rest of the universe. That's still the end goal of humanity. Because you can't just have kids and have a family. Where do you think that leads to? Because some people enjoy that whole blissfulness of ignorance, where it's like, I would just not think about it. Yeah, but you are thinking about it. Like, whether or not you try not to think about it, you are still thinking about it. No matter how useless you want to be in your life, you are still doing things that affect the future and affect all of societies. You are still doing that. No matter how much you try to be useless, to be like, to not want to affect the world in any way, you just kind of want to do your own thing, you're still affecting the world by existing. You're affecting the world by eating food. By buying food from other people. You're forgetting the fact that by buying food from other people, you're adding more money to some other people's pockets because you're using your hard work to put money into other people's pockets. And when you do that, what happens? You sustain someone else's life. So you are indirectly furthering humanity. Like, literally, by surviving, you're furthering humanity. You're furthering everything that happens. And literally, we are exactly that. We are exactly the cancer of the universe, because that's exactly our purpose. That's our goal. Yes, we do eliminate it from our bodies, and who knows, maybe that's the end goal. Maybe we reach a point where the universe has its own antibodies that take over, or maybe we take over, because what happens when cancer takes over a person? The person dies. And maybe that's the whole point. Maybe the universe is just supposed to end and maybe convert to a different entity, because at the end of the day as well, death is just another form of conversion. And yes, this is all very epistolical. This is like just me bringing in fancy words and making statements and like all these, you know, catchphrases and stuff you see online. Like the universe is all just one step to one. I can't make one up when I'm trying to. It's always I'm just always natural with it, you know, because that's who I am. Whatever. But like, that's the thing. You have to understand that this is the whole point of the universe. The whole point is literally to keep growing. And the whole point of humanity in the universe is to keep conquering, because otherwise we die. That's just how it works. You need resources to live, and you take resources off of things around you. And what's crazy about it is we came from those resources. That's what's kind of insane about the universe, and what makes me what I have in the back of my mind that makes me go, so is it really bad? Because at the end of the day, you are still sustaining the same universe, because we're not creating matter by taking over and by eating. We're not creating matter. Even if we die, we still exist. That's the thing. You're still there. You're just probably not conscious. That consciousness is like, it's an engine working in a specific way, you know? That's all of consciousness. It's a specific kind of engine that the brain has control over, and it works in a certain way that leads to a certain thing happening. And that whole certain thing is our observation of the universe, our ability to sense things. And it feels like a superpower when you think of it as an ability, but a car's ability to move forward is just an engine. It's literally just an engine. But if you put AI into that car and made it feel like its purpose is to move forward, then it feels like it's satisfying its purpose. It feels like it's sensing its surroundings. It's doing what it's supposed to do. It's doing this is doing that. A freaking Tesla, for example, is just like a human being in a way, because it to itself is conscious. It knows what it's doing, and it senses what it's supposed to sense, what's built into it, what's programmed into it, and that's what its goal is. So like all of everything, our consciousness, quote unquote, isn't a supernatural thing. It's not a power. It's not a weird freaking spiritual thing. And yes and no, because that's another ethereal debates. But aside that whole quandary, it's all just feeling. It's all a fundamental basis of humanity. And because of that fundamental basis, it also leads to the whole understanding that we take over everything we go into. But we are still the same amount of thing in the universe, because we weren't created from some random, we weren't put into Earth. If you get what I mean, we came out of Earth, and yes, probably if you dig deep into it backwards, it's probably even deeper. Maybe we're some speck of DNA that came from space or something, whatever. But the main thing is, in the universe, we weren't added into the universe. We just kind of evolved with it. We're just matter that happens to have converted from one state to another state. That's why scientists always theorize that the universe came from gas, because usually everything starts from gas, or maybe plasma, maybe something insane like that, but it's usually from gas. And when it starts from gas, you can get everything else, because the universe was just bloody hot. And that's the thing. We have no answer for how we got there in the first place, but that's where we can see, that's where we can fantasize, that's where we can theorize from, because without that, there's no way to quantify anything. Like that's just where it begins. You get? Like what happens before the first page of any book? Nothing. Like you can't tell what happens. The book itself can't tell what happens before the first page. The book only knows what's in the book. You can theorize that someone wrote it. You can theorize that it just happened. It just existed. You can theorize that there was a being, a god, who literally hand wrote the entire book. Cool. But you can't really find any exact answer when you are part of that book. And that's the thing. That's the crazy reality of the universe, crazy reality of just all of existence, of everything. If we take over the entire universe, maybe we will discover more universes, maybe we'll take over more, maybe we'll find a way to connect multiverses even, maybe we'll find a way to get into the fourth dimension, the fifth dimension, everything. But it's just always going to be about conquering, about taking over and taking over and taking over and taking over. There is no end goal. It's just take over. And it all depends on how you want to do it. Because that's the thing. There's no gentle ending to what I'm saying right now, which is kind of scary for some people to think about. Barely anyone's gonna watch this video, I'm pretty sure, but like it doesn't matter. I make these videos in the hopes that people will watch it and it will touch someone. People think, and people just become smarter because these are fun discussions to have. I mean, how much better are these compared to reaction videos? I'm reacting to the universe. That's literally it. I'm just doing it in like talk form for an hour pretty much. But like this is the thing. After that whole understanding, we just take over. So what if we reach a point where we take over even more of the universe? What if we reach everything? What if we just take over and take over? What if it's infinite? Then so be it. That's the goal. That's the end goal. There's nothing else. There's no feeling involved. There's no nothing. Your goal as a human being is just to continue existence. That's it. That's the unfortunate and fortunate truth. That's your entire goal. That's the purpose of reality. That's the purpose of life. Everyone's always like, what's the actual purpose of... That is your purpose. Like your purpose, like Rick said, to pass mustard, your purpose is to keep making more of yourself. That's it. Just keep producing, keep reproducing, just keep doing that. Because that's it. That's the purpose of every being. Every living thing is just meant to constantly keep making more of itself. And that's it. Every animal does it. Every human being does it. Everything that has life, what we quantify as life, like anything that has DNA involved in it, that's all. That's all your goal is. It's just to make more of yourself. And that's my whole topic. That's my whole thing. And yeah, I'm probably leaving a lot of people like very, very, very much in dread right now, but yeah, just live with it. Just be fine. It's nice to think about these things because when you get your mind more comfortable with it, the less scary it feels. That's how I put it. The less it feels like, oh my God, so all I'm doing is meaningless. No, keep doing what you're doing. You're still like, whether you like it or not, like I said, you're still fulfilling humanity's goal. You're still doing it. So be proud of yourself, feel happy, feel good, because you're doing what you're supposed to do. You're actually doing it. Because if you weren't, then you would not exist. It's that simple. The only reason you exist, like from your existence alone, you are already doing what you're supposed to do. So just have fun doing it, and enjoy yourselves. I hope to see you guys in the next video. I have more topics coming. Don't worry, I have lots more cool things. I don't always say existential stuff. If this is the first time you're listening to me, I can talk about random nonsense. But this was just interesting to think about, because like societies are just built upon the fact that we think we think we have a certain goal that we don't exactly have. And I don't know, it's just insane to think about, and it's fun to think about. And also, yeah, that whole conversation did resolve, that whole discussion did resolve in, yes, just keep doing what you're doing. That's kind of the whole thing. I didn't add anything, I didn't subtract it. Maybe I did add something, maybe I helped you think better now, who knows? Maybe I helped in some way. Maybe someone now is enlightened because they listened to this whole podcast. Who knows? It's fun to think about because this is interesting. This is literally brain food. It's like food for thought. You help yourself. You grow your mind. You think better when you reason all these things. So yeah, it's fun to think about. And yeah, that's the end of this video. You guys will see me in the next video, and I'll have much more stuff to say later. Stay gorgeous, stay beautiful, and get out of here.